translated with DeepL.com. Disclaimer: this is an unofficial translation.
Contact Report 104th Contact Saturday, March 18, 1978, 3:32 a.m.
First, I have some things to discuss with you that are very unpleasant in nature, but for which you have been able to prepare for months. It has been explained to you several times that
must go well if it lasts until the middle of the year.
That is correct, but it is already so far.
I could figure that out for myself. In fact, I was pretty sure the blow would come today.
It is very unfortunate, but the fault lies with the persons concerned themselves, because they do not follow the instructions we have given and do not follow the teaching in the form that can be expected of them. They thus fall into ambivalence and hopelessness, whereby they also completely misjudge the true state of affairs and no longer seek the flawed in themselves where it actually lies, but seek it without exception from others, which in turn leads to discord and false accusations. However, I would like to discuss these issues with you without mentioning them later in the report.
That's fine with me, but you know there have been differences about the last reports. For example, you get upset from different sides because you praised my cannibal so much. But several have also got quite excited about the report, because you said that many could not yet understand the things you mentioned in relation to the events of that night when the Jizhinis wanted to smash our building.
Such impulses are anchored in envy and incomprehension.
You may be right, but you know, several people accused me of only praising others, but not themselves.
Praise can only be given where it is appropriate. So when I praised your cannibal in several ways, I think it is a very good justification, even though you occasionally judge everything differently when we talk about it in private, because you still have doubts. And if it must be so, I praise her another time, for her achievements outstrip those of all others, and no one deserves such praise as you. Her progress in every way exceeds our wildest expectations, and accordingly she should be rewarded with my praise. But anyone who is therefore displeased with her is very far behind her and is not able to give her the cold water according to your language. There is no excuse for such an act of resentment, nor is there any excuse for the fact that there are thoughts of past events, which are still very awake in some, and which should be the reason why these past events are not forgotten. Your wife has made progress in recent months, which no longer justifies remembering old, negative events in such a way that they are considered unforgiving. But anyone who still sticks to these memories of all negative events, with the excuse that these things cannot be forgotten so quickly, is very timid, ignorant and inhibited to progress. These persons take the right, which they are not entitled to, only to live themselves and to make mistakes. But they are also the ones in your group who are the least governed by the rules we have given them and thus create strife. Within them is evil dissatisfaction with oneself and with all that is outside. But perhaps the coming time will bring them improvement and change in this respect, if they stand aside from the group for some time and, so to speak, receive only marginally what the events bring. It was unavoidable for me to discuss these matters with Samjais as well, but despite her regret she found no other advice than that a temporary step aside is the only acceptable and valuable thing, but that this time should be used for a full transformation and change.
Well, I can't say anything about that if you have that opinion. Someone else said that it was very wrong to say that one or the other was outflanking or outstripping the rest of the group in terms of progress. Besides, despite my love for my wife, I also have my doubts, as I have often told you in confidence, as you rightly mentioned earlier. And I have doubts despite the visible successes, because I know her acting art. So I just hope you and all the others aren't wrong.
On the one hand, this is thought and spoken by you very timidly, and on the other hand the spoken words of the group members are incorrect, because if a group member really tries to make progress and also brings good results, then this happens not only in the interest of the person concerned, but to a very large extent also in the interest of all group members. The man of the earth, on the other hand, is still very biased in a conceit of the state, which is why even envy and irrationality are still so great. Therefore, it happens that praise for a truly good achievement generates envy, although such praise is pronounced only when it is justified in any form associated therewith. If it is said that one group member has outperformed the other in progress, then this corresponds to a clear statement and fact, which must in no way arouse envy, but only joy for the member who accomplishes this achievement. And on the other hand, it should also be an incentive for the others to emulate the powerful group member. However, if this is not done in this way, but is talked about and thought in a disfavorable manner, then this testifies to the fact that there is still a very weak knowledge in this respect and no great observance of the rules, but that there is also a rather regrettable lack of understanding of love.
Well, I don't think that's going to be very popular, although I have to admit that even your explanation seems quite obvious to me. But something different. What about lectures in Cloten when I go there to hold such lectures? You know, my dream from that time. Is the danger still there? You once told me that I could give lectures if they didn't relate to ufology.
That's correct.
You can again give lectures outside your center, but be careful.
The danger you mentioned has not been removed, but you may dare to go into that area. You are in greater danger in your living area, which is why you should exercise much greater caution in it.
Well, then something else again. I don't know what it is about, but I'm supposed to pay you Elsie's dearest thanks, because, as she says, you helped her a lot in the last days.
No thanks are necessary, but you shall suggest my dear greetings to her. But my thanks also go to all the others who have made special efforts for our mission. In Gilbert, for example, who is constantly striving very hard, but also Elsa, Guido and your wife, who are always striving very hard for many things in connection with your center. Gilbert deserves special praise for his hard work without complaints regarding the production of his writings. His wife Maria and his descendants often help him with the finishing, and I would like to express my gratitude to them for this. However, Bernadette, whom I would also like to express my gratitude to, is also a man of great dedication, as is Jacobus, although he often causes me and also Samjas and Pata serious concern, especially in recent times, which is why I had to criticize him recently. It is also important not to forget Cher, who has always been known for her manual work, but who for some time now, and especially at present, has been causing us a great deal of grief. She should strive for a transformation in an extremely concentrated form, for all evil lies within her alone.
I know that, son, and I explained that to her too. It seems, however, that my explanations were fruitless, because now it is even deeper in the squeeze.
Your explanations to them are known to me, because I tried in my own control to address these concerns. It is very unfortunate that she does not follow your advice and does not accept your words. Mistakenly, she digs her thoughts into forms of remorse and fear, although I know you have explained everything very truthfully. But if she now does not change very quickly and follows your advice and explanations, everything will collapse for her. To achieve success, however, it must become more truthful and not just build a fake solution on 1/3 and 1/2 things.
It's pretty bad with her, but the fault lies with her alone. Today I even expect her to cancel a regular group meeting with a half-truthful deregistration, because last night I already caught such impulses. and I certainly wasn't wrong. But, Quetzal, we'd better talk about these things later.
I mentioned this at the beginning, but there is still something to be said. Every member of the group should in future make a very strict effort, on the one hand, to adhere strictly to the given rules of order, but on the other hand also to make an effort to absorb the doctrine in its entirety through precise study and to live by it as far as possible. Only in this way can each member of the group do justice to our overall and every task in the individual case and in the community. In every respect, much more attention should also be paid to what I have to say and what I explain, and inappropriate speeches that I am too harsh in tone should be omitted. I know very well how things stand and what tone to apply, and if one were to disagree with this and not accept it, then I would have to withdraw and give in to the former urge that many of us wanted, namely that the contacts should be broken off. It is not acceptable for reproach to be made against us in relation to our tone and conduct when we are right. And I have often heard such expressions from various group members during occasional checks. The man on earth, and many of the group members, are not yet so mature that he would be able to act without decisive provisions, according to which there is an urgent need for tougher demands to be made, which will also happen from Semjace's side when she returns here in the middle of May and continues her task. So it would be pointless to want to include her in the area that she will act differently in the future than I do, because all the very unfortunate events of the last months in your group by the partly quite evil treacherous machinations of the mistakers require a much harder action, otherwise everything would be destroyed. The chaff will finally have to separate from the grain, and you will have to take this separation by the hand yourself. That was explained to you months ago, and those who do not make good and decisive efforts to adhere to doctrine and rules endanger not only the existence of the group, but also our entire and common mission, which is why it is no longer acceptable for them, the treacherous failures, to remain in the group for a longer period of time. On the other hand, those who are guilty of mistakes themselves, who do not strive for everything in an honest way, but only make demands, act treacherously and believe themselves to be in privileges, find out for themselves why they exclude themselves from our entire community and thus destroy their entire future on very many incarnations. For that which is given to them by the center shall not be given to them another time. Any member that departs maliciously, treacherously and slanderously from the group in the final sense for more than 8 months shall find no way back in this life in the future, for it may under no circumstances be accepted into the group, either now or in the present future. Because if they do not prove themselves now and in the hardest time, they will also not do this sometime later or also not in the later future, because every day that gets lost to them in the community removes them even more from it, and this difference can no longer be made up. This also applies to those who maliciously want to stand aside for a certain period of time in the future, if they are not allowed to return to the group after a period of 8 months. If they do not return to the group permanently and from then on and in accordance with all the rules. This does not mean that their vibrational quanta will be raised in the Sohar center, but it does mean that they cannot be given any more opportunity to ever catch up on missed vibrational deposits in the present time or in the future. For he who is so subject to the material and to his own weaknesses of character, etc., that he or she does not want to commit himself or herself fully and completely to the good cause now, he or she will not be able to do so in the future either. It is very regrettable to have to say this, but an overview of the very detrimental changes that have taken place in some individuals in recent years has shown this to be the case. Time is pressing more and no consideration should be given to it in the future. Anyone who does not finally concern himself with an effort to fit himself into the given rules of order and to use the given doctrine to the best of his ability in his studies cannot be given any further assistance, as it would be better for them to say in Manuel's words that a millstone would be hung around their necks and they would sink into the floods of the sea. It must therefore be the case in the future that the group members will become aware of each other, that the time has finally come, as the chaff separates from the grain. Therefore, the one who is the grain will in future make a decisive effort to deal with all concerns without contradiction, otherwise leaving the group is unavoidable. This is the only way to achieve the goal of following the rules and fulfilling all our missions. This means, however, that a gathering of all group members takes place as in the earlier time, as it was given in the first mission time. In view of the present situation, this cannot be done in exactly the same framework as it was then, which is understandable to us, but it should and must be the case that each group member appears more often in the center without untruthful excuses and as far as possible in order to guarantee the unity of togetherness. Various group members are given the opportunity to visit the center more often than they do. It is up to their sense of responsibility towards our common mission whether they want to take the trouble or not, without untruthful excuses. Only a few people have this sense of responsibility, which should also be mentioned here by name, so Guido, Engelbert, Elsa and Maria. But all the others, except those who live in the center, regularly invent excuses not to have to appear in the center and then to feel disadvantaged and to notice that they have lost the union with all the others, thereby building up offended emotions and becoming aware that the others are to blame for it, although the fault lies solely and exclusively with them. The mistakes themselves, without exception. In the future, I will be obliged to give orders myself for work to be done, such as manual work and lectures, etc., whereby I will assign the work to certain group members myself, always according to their ability and mastery of the activity in question. You should therefore, from time to time, draw up an activity plan for me on the work to be carried out, after which I will give instructions as to who should carry it out. Because if we finally want to go ahead without major obstacles in every respect, there is no other way left open. But anyone who refuses to obey my instructions is not honestly concerned with teaching, with his own progress and with our common task, which is why there can be no further dwelling in the group for the group member concerned. For it is in no way acceptable that only profit should be drawn from everything, but that one should not make one's own pertinent contribution. Those who are aware of the full responsibility in every respect, and unfortunately these are only a few, first of all Elsa, Engelbert and Guido, followed by your wife, Maria, Jacobus and Bernadette. With Marcel there are still various family matters to be sorted out, but also with Chair. For the rest, the sense of responsibility is very deep, but so is the sense of togetherness. I am very sorry about the whole thing in this respect, but it has been shown that no advice is successful and I therefore have to adopt the necessary instructions.
That's all sorts of things, son, but it will be so when you say it. It is really necessary that something finally happens. Otherwise our pile will rush between all the chairs and benches another time.
That's correct.
Well, some won't be too happy. But tell me, Quetzal, can you penetrate other dimensions with this old box?
Your question doesn't make sense. What do you want to ask?
It makes me wonder whether you can also travel with Minara's ship into the past and into the future?
It's possible. But why do you ask? When you ask questions like that, there's a certain purpose behind it. Are you asking me if I'm taking you on a journey into the future or the past?
That's right, son.
So, that's why you took that big photographic apparatus with you.
Right, son, but that's not as complicated a thing as you say. It's just a damn normal camera.
It's the same thing.
Yes, where are you going?
To Frisco, my son, to San Francisco, but to the future. Namely in those times when the city was destroyed by the Great Earthquake. I would be interested to know what everything looks like when the first heavy quake is over, and that's exactly what I want to photograph. That would be safe, wouldn't it? And it certainly doesn't matter if I publish these pictures if they become something, does it?
There would certainly be no objection to that, because many people would still leave San Francisco and settle elsewhere before the catastrophe comes. It would save a lot of lives. Of course, I agree, but it'll take me several hours to get there with you. This old ship, I don't have another one available at the moment, needs a longer preparation time, after which you won't be back in normal time until dawn.
It doesn't matter, because you can bring me back at about the same time as you got me out of bed.
That's possible.
Well, then I could get some sleep. Let's go, then.
As you wish, but we can't have a conversation in the meantime.
Anyway, let's go. I'm tense like a string before it bursts.
So be it. You are truly tireless. We're about 300 kilometers from San Francisco here. Down there you can see the fissures of the earth as they have existed for a long time. What you see are extensions of the so-called Andreas Graben, which has bulged up to the earth's surface.
Can I take a picture of that?
There's nothing wrong with that. But you could also ban it to the film at your present time in 1978, because the changes are extremely small and hardly noticeable on the photos.
Still, I'd like to take a picture of it.
Then do it. Come here, look, here this floor hatch. As you can see, after the plate has been pushed aside it releases this very finely dotted viewing plate, through which you can look directly out into the open. Through these you can photograph.
I do, Quetzal, but you know that when I take pictures in the ship, they're always very blurry and fuzzy afterwards. Is there no other way, you know? Maybe I can get out?
You have the best overview from above, here from the ship. On the other hand, this time you will bring sharp and clear pictures onto your film, because the propulsion of this ship does not affect your film through radiation. You just have to make sure that you do not photograph directly under the drive surface, because the very strong light radiation could affect the film. The slightest damage to the film could be that the finished images would appear to be illuminated by a light source. The worst case scenario would be overexposure.
Is it the light that goes so far down there and looks like a headlight?
That's correct. So make sure that these light masses do not come into the area of your recording areas.
I'll try.
Are you done with your work?
I am, my son. Maybe I wasn't careful enough about the light after all. Somehow it seemed to me as if I had always seen a shimmer of light in the lens.
Then try again.
No. Let's go to Frisco first. I only have one film with me and a normal negative film.
Suit yourself, get away from the hatch. So, well,
Man, this is crazy. Look, everything's smoking up there.
There's San Francisco. Well, here we are. Now take your pictures.
Man, Quetzal, this looks a lot worse than I thought. But listen. There must be a structure somewhere that is supposed to be known as America Building or something like that. Take me there. That's what I want to photograph most of all, so that no one can come and claim that I took pictures of the last big quake at the turn of the century.
Here we are, my friend, but this time you better watch the light source.
I want to try. Thank you, Quetzal. That's enough. Just back up a bit. Well, yeah, wait. Alright, Now fly.
Just a little more to the right. All right, thanks. Man, that's gigantic, the terrible destruction. Thank you, Quetzal. I have some pictures again. That should do it. Please fly back again to the comical curves of the Andreas Graben.
As you like, but keep in mind that we are already slowly exceeding our time and I have to make the preparations for the return journey.
It's alright, Quetzal, you can start as soon as we get there. I want to see everything again. How fast half an hour goes by in the future.
Time is the same, it only appears to you much shorter through what you have seen.
Of course, I know that. Ah, here we are. Just do your job.
Well, my friend, here we are again. We're here about 30 minutes earlier than you left your warm bed.
Then we can use the rest of the time to discuss those issues that you wanted to keep secret.
That was my intention, too.
Well, then I have 2 or 3 questions first. First, because of Coney. How about his times for the center?
My calculations resulted in very unusual data for him, according to which he was to follow every second day for 2 months for the duration of 3 hours and 58 minutes of the power release. In the event of a failure, he'd have to catch up on 19 whole periods. The times are calculated from today, namely from 00:45 o'clock.
Man, that's a lot. Is he really that bad?
Unfortunately, yes. Because he didn't try to learn everything. On the one hand, he lacks the necessary initiative and energy, and on the other hand, he is so tied to material concerns in his attitudes that this part is much more important to him than his life.
I was thinking something similar, and I'm sure he won't come back today with some lame excuse. And if that's really the case, then he can give me as long as he wants, because then I'll let him go. Let him then see where his next incarnation and the following ones will lead him. If he already has to catch up 19 times for a missed time, and that within only 2 months, then that means that he won't be able to do that, because he certainly already lacks today, as I said before.
It's starting to look like you're getting sensible about things, too.
Why?
That you no longer unnecessarily respond to the unreasonableness of those who do not strive for everything in honest form. You should really be less indulgent, but show a certain hardness. You'd have a lot less trouble and worry to deal with.
I have realized this in the meantime, and I will act more according to your advice from now on. But now my second question, regarding the work performance. Are you really convinced that it is inevitable that you give the necessary instructions yourself?
That is not a question, because it is our unanimous decision. Unfortunately, there are only a few group members that I can exclude from these orders, because they truly become aware of their duties in remarkably good form and with a great sense of responsibility themselves, and usually unsolicited, namely Elsa, Engelbert, Guido, your wife, and Maria. In addition, Bernadette, Jacobus and Cher are formed in good form in this respect.
So this means that you want to exclude the named from your orders?
That is correct, because her sense of duty is very well developed, except with Cher, who has to make a lot of effort, and not only in these matters. But her sense of duty began to work, which is why I had to name her.
I think that's very fair, son. But listen, you little jerk. Our dear Elsa is not called Elsa with us, but simply Elsie. Call the girl that, please. You know, Elsa sounds so strange.
I'm happy to grant your wish, so Elsa is Elsie.
Well-roared, lion. Elsie will also be happy about it, but so will my cannibal and everyone else. And while I'm at Elsie's, do you have any idea how the name Kalinka or Kalinka could be related to her?
You're asking me about things I want you to explore for yourself.
I did, because otherwise I wouldn't know the name.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Isn't that really understandable? I just told you two names, and I figured them out myself.
Oh, yes, of course, you've confused me. The name Kalanka is right. About 2,000 years ago this was a nickname for the personality of Elsie at that time. This is an old Russian Greek name, and it is not pronounced with the written but with the letter dot. This nickname was given to her because her father's family was called Kalanka. Her own name at that time was Magdalene Elizabeth Maria.
I know that, thank you, but you confirmed it to me anyway. You know, I should have been doing research on everyone's previous data for a long time, but I just haven't found the time yet.
By the middle of this year, you should still reach it.
But the time for this has become very short for you, which is why I will help you with it. So be concerned that you have the necessary life data from all group members by 3 April, then I will help you. And if I don't have these dates, by which you mean the resumes, by April 3rd, what then?
However, for those for which no data is available by that date, no research will be carried out, without exceptions. We must finally be consistent in all things.
Quetzal, is that your final word?
No doubt about it. But now hear what I have to say to you.
Here Quetzal gives explanations that Olgi and Margaret will leave the group shortly, but also Cher and Marcel.
I've really been expecting this, Quetzal. I still remember very well that you, Simjace and also Pata told me that it would have to go well if it was to be in the middle of 1978 before it happened.
You said that before, but now go and sleep for a few more hours. Goodbye, my friend, and before I go,
I am to order from Simjace and Pata to all members of the group, including those who are wrong, with kind greetings and loving solidarity.
Thank you, Quetzal. Thank you, dear. Bye now, and don't keep waiting so long for you again.
We'll see. Goodbye, and do not worry too much about the coming events, also not about tonight's events, because despite everything this currently very regrettable concern will still result in good.
Bye, my friend. You're a damn nice guy.
Pay especially to your cannibal my dear greetings and wishes. She was very brave and did a wonderful job. And what I want to say, I also greet Elsie and Bernadette lovingly and thank them. Especially Elsie is very well known for what. But also Engelbert and Jacobus must not be forgotten, nor Mary, who stood by you that night as...
Man, shut up. Well, you got that too. But what do you think about that, huh?
It is extremely remarkable how you are constantly working day and night, seemingly without getting tired.
Is that all?
That's all I have to explain.
You just accept it?
Why shouldn't I? You have done a job that serves all our missions, and it was your only solution.
Quetzal, you're just a gold piece. But why do you actually know about this not exactly easy work?
Engelbert did not keep his thoughts under control, which is why I was able to register them. He was thinking too much about me.
Okay, then it's all right.
Nevertheless, you should only work so hard in emergencies.
These are absolute exceptions in this crazy form. Engelbert was completely exhausted after work and soaked with sweat. That's how he worked.
This is also understandable. I myself would not be able to do such a hard job, which is why I would use my equipment.
You talk good. But we still have to use quite primitive tools. But now bye, I am dog tired.
Goodbye, my friend. Enjoy a restful sleep.